Welcome everyone. Appreciate you taking some time out today. My name is Ryan. I'm the founder of Creative Natives. We're a recruitment agency that specializes in the creative marketing and digital space. We have a presence in Melbourne, Sydney, and the Gold Coast. And yeah, we will be hopefully in the next hour passing on some tips, tricks to get your foot in the door. I'll give as honest feedback and advice as possible. So please feel free to at any point jump in, ask any questions. I think we've got a fairly small number today, so please use either the chat feature or simply just speak and ask any questions as we go. There will be some resources to be shared at the end of the session. So if anything, probably just sit back and listen, and hopefully we can make some inroads. So just wanted to introduce you to Leah, our marketing manager. Leah will be manning the chat feature. So if you have any questions, shoot them through and we'll do our best to cover them off as we go. Okay. I like to start each session just with a quick from you guys. What area are you studying or looking to get into, just so we can perhaps tailor the material accordingly? So if you could just in the chat box just mention what your area that you're looking to get into.
We've got public relations, final semester of Bachelor of Business in Marketing.
Yep.
I'll just hop on. I am a graduate of Master in Business Administration, specializing in marketing.
Marketing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great. So nice mix. So awesome. So I'll quickly go through today's agenda. So we'll be looking at building a personal brand, how to land an internship, tips on nailing your cover letter, the best way to present your work, practical ways to kickstart your career, and we'll finish off with a bit of a Q&A. So we should have it all wrapped up by 1 o'clock today. So I thought I'd just give you a bit of context as to why we do these events. And as a company, we get approached a lot by junior candidates, often without experience. And just by nature of the recruitment industry, it is quite difficult for us to place candidates into roles without experience. We don't, however, want to just not help, and because I think that's just not the way to act in life and professionally. So I try and put these on once a month to just give a real insight from a recruitment lens, and to try and give you valuable advice that's going to actually make a difference and try and get you your foot in the door. Okay, so I'm not a career coach. I don't have any formal qualifications. I do, however, I've probably got about 10 years experience in recruitment, and I've seen firsthand examples of juniors being able to get their foot in the door. So hopefully we'll give you some real tangible advice to take into your career. Okay. So quick bit of background. I started Creative Natives just over 4 years ago from my kitchen bench. We're now 14 people, and we currently get around 1 million views on LinkedIn a month as a company. So the reason I mention that is it kind of leads into the first place to start, which is around personal branding. Okay. Just again, quickly through the chat box, has anyone had much experience with building an online personal brand, or has any knowledge, understanding of where to begin and what maybe the benefits are of doing that? No.
So Jackson has worked in recruitment previously, so I would assume that he knows a bit about personal branding. But yeah, anyone else have much experience with personal branding at all?
Cool. Okay, great, good start. Okay, so let's kind of break down. A personal brand to me is the way in which you define, promote, and what you stand for as an individual, which is actually very, very important when trying to establish your position in market and get yourself noticed. Ultimately, people buy into people, and the more personality that you're able to demonstrate and the values of what is important to you. You may feel like as a junior that you haven't necessarily got much interest, anything interesting to say, or companies won't take note of that. But I think that's very much an individual imposter syndrome, which many people have when it comes to creating that personal brand. Is why would anyone care about anything that I've got to say? And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that juniors and grads make. And I think if you're actually able to look beyond that, there's a world of opportunity out there for you just by simply changing the lens and looking at that personal branding piece. Okay. So I kind of want to just sort of stop and, kind of draw a line into that. When you are finishing up university or you're trying to get that first foot in the door, you have two sort of ways of approaching the getting a job. So the first of which is what I would say 95% of people do is simply look on job boards, apply for jobs, receive a rejection or no response, and go through this process time and time again. Okay. To be honest with you, it can be fairly demoralizing. It can make you feel like you're not good enough, and it can be highly frustrating. Okay. I witness it on a daily basis, and it's tough. That whole chicken and egg. How do I get experience without, how do I get that foot in the door without that experience, etc. Right. So that is what I would say the vast majority of people do. And I think that the purpose of this, if you take one thing from today, is to shift from that applying for jobs and looking at how you can proactively position yourself and put yourself in the way of opportunities. Okay. So I just want to kind of get you to sort of think about LinkedIn, for example. I mean, is everyone on this call on LinkedIn? Does everyone have a profile?
We've got one, yes. Yeah. It looks like most people on LinkedIn.
Great. Okay, so LinkedIn has evolved hugely over the last few years and has very much become a, I can't actually sort of play it up enough in terms of how important it can be for you to get your foot in the door. And I guess I'd ask you to sort of think about LinkedIn as this huge, big networking event, right? That has potential employers in the room, okay? And the way in which you would act at a networking event should be applied to how you would go about that online, okay? So the example being, you wouldn't just go up to someone at a networking event and ask them for a job, okay? You would get to know them, you would have rapport with them, and you would build connection that maybe further down the track, something would come of it, okay? So looking at LinkedIn as a transaction, that's not going to create results for you, right? So we've got to start looking at how do we build something that's long-term going to get you noticed in the right way, okay? So we're going to go into a few practical tips around how you can do that, okay? Your LinkedIn profile, to me, is, if anything, more important than your resume, okay? Your LinkedIn profile is, as a recruiter, the first thing I'll do is when I get someone's resume, and I think a lot of recruiters will do the same thing, we'll type your name into LinkedIn and get a much better, much clearer idea about you as a person versus what you can read on a CV, okay? What your LinkedIn profile allows you to do is to personalize it to represent your personal brand. You can add different features, you can have certain aspects which show off your work, etc. So when people say to me, how long should my CV be? I often say to them, focus less on the CV and more on your LinkedIn page, okay? So in terms of getting things started, I think the first point I want to talk about is your profile picture, okay? Does your profile picture represent the role that you're trying to achieve and the brand? Is that going to represent you as a person, and is that going to attract the type of brands that you want to, okay? An example being, if you're looking to work in a funky creative agency, I probably wouldn't recommend you wearing a suit in your profile picture, okay? So using your profile picture to mirror the sort of organization that you want to work for and also represent your personal brand, okay? An obvious one, smile in your profile picture, Okay, we're very judgmental creatures, and that plain face doesn't necessarily create a lot of warmth and make people want to get to know you. Okay, have some fun. Again, look, the area that a lot of you are in is the creative space. Okay, so let's LinkedIn doesn't mean corporate. Okay, LinkedIn is professional, but it also needs to represent the space that you want to be in. So, you know, within Melbourne, there's loads of laneways where artwork and things like that, right? Go out there and have a picture that, again, represents what you want to go after. Okay. A couple of features that, again, I'm sort of trying to get your profile to stand out is adding or editing the banner on your LinkedIn page. So that background, you can actually customize it to have colors that match your picture, or you can have something that, again, is a little bit lighter on the eye and makes you stand out. Very relevant for those who are designers or creatives that want to demonstrate their aesthetics. So absolutely adapts the banner. Okay. There's also on the about section. So how I always say to people is your LinkedIn profile is essentially like a microsite of you as a person. So on the about section, have a bit of personality, tell the reader what you can do for them. So if your about section should have a really clear outline of what you do and have examples of your work. Okay. This is a part where I think that you have to lean in a bit. Okay, so if you haven't got that experience, you've still got to position yourself as you are a marketer. Okay, an aspiring marketer is probably not going to make the reader go, okay, that's there, right? You are a marketer if that's what you studied and that's the profession that you're going into. Okay, so you've got to really lean into the role that you're going for versus what you have done in the past. Okay, going back to that analogy around that networking event, your LinkedIn profile allows you to add 100 new contacts a week. Okay, absolutely think about the compounding effect of adding 100 new contacts to your network each week. That's 5,000 over the course of a year. Okay, so with that, you can send them a request. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, one of the features you can do on LinkedIn is follow someone, and therefore their content will appear on your feed. Okay, a little hack that if you're trying to get noticed or trying to get on the radar of someone and you don't feel confident starting your own content, you can actually converse with the content that they've produced. Okay, regardless of anyone's seniority, putting content out to the world is quite a vulnerable situation. So the first person, or if you decide that you're going to actually comment on their post and engage in a conversation, that is a very quick way of getting on their radar and, you know, giving yourself an opportunity to be noticed. Okay, so it doesn't have to be your own content. You could piggyback off their content and start conversations through their content. Does that make sense? Okay, awesome, cool. So once you've started building that network, okay, what I wanted to start thinking about is, right, what do you want your personal brand to reflect? Okay, so with your content pillars, what I would look at is breaking them down into individual pillars. So you know, for example, you could have one that's educational. Again, you might think, what do I have to say, right? But I think there's a lot of learnings that are really interesting to companies at that graduate level around education and what's going on inside your world. Okay, so you can always educate someone. So educational is definitely a pillar that I would encourage you to be posting about. I think relatable is one that people, you know, forget about, right? You know, life is life, and you don't need to have this polished, super impressive, you know, content. Actually, people resonate when people are quite human-like. So having relatable content again allows people to get to know the real you and not this polished, perfect person that doesn't really exist in life. Okay. I think inspiring, you know, if you've had a win through in anything, it could be something as small as doing this webinar today. It could be something like reading a book. It could be learning a new skill, etc. Okay, it's using those small wins and creating a bit of a narrative that people then start getting to know you and what you stand for. Okay. Entertaining. Okay. Again, LinkedIn doesn't have to be all serious. Okay. Some of the content that we've produced as a business which has had the biggest traction, has been ones that are entertaining. Okay. So don't necessarily have to be super serious. Again, people like to be entertained, particularly on LinkedIn, where it is quite a serious dialogue. By being entertaining and bringing some fresh ideas is a quick way of you being able to stand out. Okay. If anyone is wondering about examples of content, I'd really recommend you follow the Creative Natives team. Each person posts something different and something that is, there's a real broad range of topics that we cover, but that has, as a result, helped us build a profile, and I think you should be able to get some ideas from that. Okay. Before I go on any further, like, how do people feel about posting? Is it something that is of interest to you, or what would be sort of holding you back, do you think?
I think the first thing that you mentioned, that people wouldn't be interested to listen to what I have to say, and like the sort of cringe material that it gets, like about your first post, like you've been overthinking. So even if I do have something to say, like my first post would be me overthinking a lot about it. So yeah, I think cringe factor is one of the key points I would like to point out.
But I think that what you've talked about there, and if I was sort of to try and coach you on that first point, is I think you're talking about the fact that most people overthink things, so therefore that content becomes relatable. Okay, I think the fact that you then position that hey, here goes, I am going to post, that's a bit of an inspiring post. Okay, and again, it's showing that vulnerability. Okay, so whilst you didn't think that was a piece of content, I can almost guarantee you, if you posted something of that nature where you sort of make yourself human, show your vulnerability, have that inspiring nature of, hey, I'm going to give it a go, what's the worst that happens? All of a sudden, you've kind of positioned yourself as someone who's out there, who's open to risk, etc. Right? And these are all kind of characteristics that a lot of companies, if you looked at their job description and the DNA of what they're looking for people that are courageous, that think outside the box, that do all these things, right? So whilst you don't think you're doing it, you're actually demonstrating those values like straight away with your first post. So it doesn't always have to be a reinvention of the wheel each time. I think it's actually just kind of being able to articulate how you're feeling, and ultimately, some people won't care, some people will, but hey, what's the worst that happens?
We've got a couple more comments.
Yep.
So someone said they would like to post more, but as someone new to the field, they're worried that their insights will be worthy. They haven't done enough to warrant having an insight. Mm-hmm. And then Jennifer's worried about offending someone with or having errors in their content.
Yep.
And then Jackson has said that he finds Reform Digital's content on LinkedIn really good and being relatable and not too professional. So having that good balance there.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, the mistakes. I personally make so many mistakes in my content, and my partner at home sometimes messages me in the middle of the day and says you've spelled something completely incorrect. So I think actually that stuff doesn't get as noticed as you think, and sometimes having mistakes again makes you more relatable. I think going to you gave an example of content that you think is a nice mix of professional and relatable. I think that's where you've got to figure out what you want your tone of voice to be. Okay, and I think that's where you've got to, don't try and be super corporate if it's not you. Don't try and, I think it's being yourself, and being authentic. Okay, people realize it a mile off if you're trying to speak to somebody in a way that isn't you. So I think it's just being true to yourself and kind of working out your plan. To the algorithm, the way in which LinkedIn works is it does pick up on consistency as well. So like a lot of people that start doing content is they stop after a week or two because they haven't seen the results that happen from it. Now, that's just the way the algorithm works. You could put the best post out in the world, but because of the algorithm, it's not going to get noticed. Okay, so if you are going to go down this path, and I'm saying this because I've had a great experience from it, and I've seen firsthand juniors who have actually, and I'll share with you some examples in a bit, that have literally gone from entry level to high roles within a few years that I know wouldn't have achieved that if they hadn't have been posting. Okay, it's not for everyone, but I think if you feel like it's something that you could see yourself doing long term, I would say it could legitimately change your career.
We have a question.
Yeah.
So do you have an example of a great personal brand on LinkedIn?
I have about 5 or 6, which I'll share with you at the end. There's, I don't know if you are familiar with a lady called Rosie Chong at all. I don't know if you've come across her. I'll share. So we actually placed her in a role a few years ago, and she has just turned up and put really authentic content out there. She talks about the challenges of being from an Asian background in Australia. She's put out some really human content, and the last I checked, she was doing guest speakers at conferences, and she's absolutely nailed it, right? And if you look at her content, and I'll share with you her profile, she's just very human, right? She just talks about the challenges, and I think each one on this call there's challenges of being someone without experience. There's challenges from coming overseas. There's challenges in all different shapes and forms. And those challenges can actually create a really good narrative that will inspire other people from challenged backgrounds and whatnot. So everyone has an interesting story. I think it's probably just yourself that's telling yourself that it isn't interesting. And as I said, it's not for everyone, but wow, if you can push through this, it will legitimately change the options, okay? And you'll go from putting in applications for jobs and getting rejected all the time. And again, this is another thing where people go, oh, I don't have time to post, okay? If you don't have time to post, you don't have time to apply for jobs, because I can tell you now, applying for a job probably takes 15 or 20 minutes. You get nothing back, right? And you're in your head just ticking boxes, okay? And that's a repetitive cycle, right? But I think there is a different way of approaching the job search.
We have another question. Is reposting content worthwhile?
Reposting?
Yeah.
So if you're simply reposting an article that you've seen online, the algorithm will not reward that, and it won't be seen by it, okay? LinkedIn wants individuals to create original content, okay? So if you saw an article that you thought was interesting, put your take on it, and then share the link in the comments box, okay? Remember, don't put it as the main body of your post, put it in the comments box, the link to it, and on the body of the content, say link to article in comments box. Okay, again, people don't want to be served content that's available to everyone. People want opinions, and that's what is going to go far, okay? So always put your stand or spin on something which you see.
That's great advice. So there you go.
Cool. Obviously, this, getting comfortable being uncomfortable, okay? Like, it's not easy, okay? And I'm not saying here that it's gonna feel natural, and you're gonna, the first few times you do it, you'll be refreshing like mad, going, has anyone liked it? Has anyone liked it? Okay, right? That's just natural, okay? We need that sometimes validation through likes and engagement to tell you that your thoughts are relevant. But again, you're also playing with an algorithm that's very complex. So as much as you can when you're first posting, don't necessarily look at the engagement. Focus on consistency, doing it 2 or 3 times a week, consistently over a period of time, and that will be then a way of tracking your progress. Okay. You're also developing really, really good skills that will help you in the long run as well. You become a much better copywriter. You're able to then articulate big information into short form copy. Okay, these are all skills which are really, really useful. Okay, so you're not just doing it to get noticed. You're also doing it and refining skills in the same process. Cool. Okay, before I go, so I think I've kind of covered LinkedIn a little bit. Okay, if we also got limited time, but if there's anyone that wants to organise a quick 10-minute one-on-one call. I can kind of help you, get your profile looking great, and I can give you a bit more detail that. But I think I just want to kind of move on from LinkedIn, and we'll kind of go into the next area, which is about internships. Has anyone done an internship on the call?
Jackson has, because he has a question about internships, but we'll let you talk first and then we'll get to his question.
No, Jackson, you're far away, mate. Go for it.
Okay. Well, he asks, is it more worthwhile for a graduate with only a small internship to apply for roles directly or with a recruiter?
Again, I think directly. Okay, and this is the reality of where we sit. This is why we're doing this call. As I said at the start, like, we get tasked and we get paid by a company to find someone with X amount of experience. Okay, companies are going to be less likely to pay for someone without experience. Okay, so I would always encourage anyone who is looking for their first foot in the door to apply directly to a company. Okay, we are not the we can help you, but it's going to be against you if there's a fee that comes with you. Okay. So yeah, sorry, has anyone completed an internship on here?
Yep, I've done it myself.
Yep.
I did it with Quinlan Consulting, and it lasted for about 10 months.
Yeah.
So it was a great experience, because when I started out, I did not even know the terms that were used in marketing sector.
Yeah.
So, like, I was taught everything, like spoon-fed content, from like learning terms to actually getting the work done. And like, I was in a team of interns, so it was a great teamwork as well.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So also Dominique did an internship with Keep Left. Jennifer, never an intern. They started in the industry when employers were more willing to take on juniors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I think that, and I actually saw an article which I'll share with the group after, which had a list of agencies offering internships. I 100% think internships are the way to go. If you can get your foot in the door, absolutely. Okay. Should you be paid? Yes. Would I do an unpaid internship if I had the opportunity? I probably would, if I'm being honest, because most companies will pay you in some form, but I think that the experience you get and the opportunity to be on the radar of an organization, even if it's for 2 weeks, it is invaluable, if I'm being honest, right? So if we are going back to the question is, can we help juniors without experience? If I've got a couple of internships on their resume, I will have at least a conversation with someone, because to me that demonstrates genuine passion for getting in the industry, but it also gives me something to sell to the client. Okay, cool, they've done internships, they're really passionate about that. I think there's a genuine concern from clients is, by offering a junior without any experiences, are we wasting our time? That is a genuine, are we gonna spend 3 months with this person and then they're gonna decide, no, this isn't for me? To me, an internship alleviates that concern to some degree. If you've gone in and done an internship and you've perhaps done another internship, that is probably giving them a bit more confidence that you're in it for the long haul. So I think you're gonna give yourself a far, far better opportunity of getting a job with an internship under your belt. So I would, without doubt, try and get one. Okay. So I've got a kind of a bit of a way, sort of an approach, which I've encouraged people in the past how to actually get an internship. So we're just going to talk about sort of the industry that we're in, but there's a couple of websites that I would recommend. So Mumbrella, Pedestrian are two industry publications which often have news about a new client an agency winning a new brand. Okay, so there is your industry knowledge for you. Okay, so using that industry knowledge, I would then use that to target companies that you know are going to have an increased workload coming up. Okay, so if a business has won a client, I would find the agency on LinkedIn. I would look up who the owner or the person within the organization would be, and I would send them a message something like this, and obviously you can adapt it however you want. But I would say congratulations on winning X client. I'm sure this win is very exciting, and I wanted to see if you needed some extra help over the coming weeks. I'm currently studying advertising, marketing, PR, and would love the chance to help your agency with the admin work that I'm sure takes up a lot of your team's time. Would love to have opportunity to demonstrate my passion for the industry and get some first-hand experience. I can't think of a better place to get it from. Okay. I'm not saying it's going to have 100% hit rate, but if you're a founder of an agency and someone has acknowledged that you've won a client, that's a bit of a boost for them. Cool, they've done a bit of research. The way you're mentioning taking up admin, okay, that is what, again, one of the concerns from a business is, if I'm bringing this person in, is it going to create more work for us? Okay, but if you're kind of disarming that conversation and saying, look, I'm happy to do the admin stuff that your team don't have time to do, and you're not going to expect the world, that makes it a lot more palatable for the business to bring on someone who's going to make their life easier for them. Okay. So that would be one approach to that. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Cool. Any questions on that at all? And
not yet, but if one pops up, I'll let you know.
Yep. Cool. Great. So just to sort of wrap up with the internships, as I said, most will pay, but I think be open to unpaid if it is for a couple of weeks. Again, I think over the course of your career, it will definitely be worthwhile. Okay. Cool. Cover letters. Has everyone ever written a cover letter before?
Thousands, according to Dominique.
Cool. Do you think they're a waste of time, or what's your thoughts on it?
Dominique's at work, so she'll only be typing.
Okay.
So bit of delay.
No.
Yeah, Jackson has also done them, but he has struggled previously.
Cool. Okay. So I'm just going to kind of give you some practical bits to include, I think, in a cover letter, because I think cover letters are actually very, very important, particularly when you are applying to the company directly. Okay. And I know that good companies with good values do read the cover letters. Okay. So what I would say is, if you're sending them to a recruiter, they're probably less relevant. If you're sending them to an organization, I would definitely incorporate the following. So point one, I would articulate why you want to work for the business, and don't be afraid to show emotion and personality. If you're passionate about the work they do and what they stand for, tell them. They want excited and passionate people working for them. Okay. Like, be genuine. Say to them, I love what your company does. Like, I really want to work in your organization for X reasons. Okay. Like, one thing I'd say is, if you are just sending out the same cover letter to every single job, stop that. Pointless, completely pointless. You might as well just not put a cover letter in, because it doesn't show anything that's unique to that organization. Okay. Check out their website, and see if you can find the values of the company. Okay. Talk about the values and how they align with you. Okay. This is really key. Okay. Most companies' values will be somewhere on the internet. Okay. There's some way of finding that out. Okay. And if you can demonstrate that you've done your research and can actually connect that with you and how you're relevant for that job, again, that's a decent cover letter, in my opinion. Do some social media stalking and Googling of the CEO and leadership team, and see if there's any leadership pieces written by them. Okay. If you can connect what they've said about the values or the way the business is run, and you can show that you've done that research, again, it gives a bit of weight to it. Okay. And then just lastly as well, look at the company's social media and check out what their tone of voice is like. Okay. This is really, really key. So you, as particularly in marketing, is your ability to match your tone of voice with a company's is a really big thing. We recruit for Who Gives a Crap a few years ago, and they were so quick to be able to identify who got their tone of voice and so being able to understand the nuances of a business, and I think most big corporations have a tone of voice, and if you can match that, whether it be casual, formal, etc., I think goes a long way to making sure that your cover letter gets noticed.
We've got a couple of questions. So Jennifer struggles with keeping her cover letters brief, writes an essay instead of something more punchy. Do you have any tips?
Less is more, right? And I think that's putting is it grammar? There's software that forgets where you can actually put it in a sentence and it kind of brings out a reduced version of that. Okay, so yes, absolutely. If you feel like you're writing an essay, can you condense it and keep the information that's must have? I don't think a cover letter should be pages and pages. I think it should be short and snappy and make the reader want to actually have a conversation with you rather than just the letter. So see it as a bit of a teaser, demonstrate it a little bit. I would say half a page is probably a good amount of there. Any more than that, it's probably just going to get a bit lost.
Is it the Hemingway editor?
Yes, it is.
Good job, Brenton.
Yeah, yes, thank you. Yeah.
Another question, not really super cover letter related, but is it a deterrent if you can only offer your time remotely, like working remote?
Yes, and sure. I think we have gone through a bit of a cycle with working remote, and one of the things that I think is a mistake that people at the start of their career are communicating in the interview process is there's a big emphasis on flexibility and having that as sort of a given within the role. And I get that, but you also need to put yourself in the shoes of the business owner. Okay, if you're in a competitive field and you've got two candidates, one that's super hungry to be in the office and learn, and the other one who's asking fully remotely, naturally you're going to be at a disadvantage. Okay, so my advice in an interview is probably not even talk about flexibility. Okay, at the point of your career where you are starting out, I personally would recommend you to be in and around people that have more experience than you as much as you possibly can. Okay, by taking that option of working remotely, it will disadvantage you. There is literally no two ways about it. Okay, most businesses have a hybrid setup, but you communicating that flexibility at the point you're in your career is going to be a red flag to most organizations.
All right, no more questions right now, so we can move on.
Cool. Cool. So I'll quickly go through this now. So how to present your work with limited experience. Okay. And this is a big one, particularly with designers that are trying to get experience without experience. Okay. Now, one of the first things that I would do if there are any designers on the call, in fact, not just designers, I think a lot of marketers and all sorts of professionals can benefit from this, is setting up a website. Okay, so getting a domain and having your website as your almost one-stop shop to showcase your work. Okay, the PDFs and everything like that, like from experience, if I work with a candidate that has a nice URL link to their work, again, it's that first impression. Wow, that's someone who takes pride in their work. Okay, your website can be updated continuously as your career develops. So I've worked with super senior people who have really, in theory, no need to have a portfolio, but they've built a website to showcase work they've done and examples there. Okay, super slick. And I think if you're starting out your career, what better way to start than having a personalized website, easy to access. Demonstrate your visual skills, your design skills, and I just think it's a great place to house everything all in one. Okay, so I would 100% recommend that. Like, there's really affordable templates through Envato and Canva and all different, really easy to use. And just knowing now, like in 5-10 years, we'll probably laugh that we used to have CVs, because it's all going to be an online portfolio. So, you know, whilst you start at the start of your career, I would 100% recommend getting that set up from day one. Yeah, cool. The other thing as well, when you're trying to, you know, show your credentials as a creative or as a designer, and you haven't got that commercial experience, you know, one thing I would sort of suggest is creating dummy briefs for yourself. So putting in hypothetical briefs, so you could have a brand that, you know, a well-known brand, you could put a hypothetical challenge that brand's having, and you can then demonstrate through your skills how you would go about that. Okay, because actually when you're a creative and you're interviewing with a creative director, the thing that creative director really wants to understand is your way of thinking, as opposed to what you've completed as that. So if you're able to demonstrate the way in which you would go about that challenge, or how you would think about the task, that again gives you something to produce and show people. Okay, so I've seen people work with like Coca-Cola and brands that are really well known, and obviously you're positioning it as, hey, look, I haven't got commercial experience, but this is some work that I've put together. Almost see it as like a uni assignment, but putting it together in a portfolio will provide you those tools, and having something to present in a portfolio is far better than just having nothing. Okay, so don't wait for that commercial experience to start showcasing the way you think. Start putting something together already. Cool, and I think as well, you know, looking at getting that experience, reach out to small local businesses. Okay, I know this is something which can feel very scary, but there are hundreds of local businesses that I can almost guarantee that if you said to them, hey, look, could I redesign your menu, or could I do this? Could I do this? You know, and it doesn't even need to necessarily be for loads of money, but again, you're developing something to put in a portfolio here, and it gets you thinking like a business owner, and getting you, you know, ready for that way of working. You know, one thing that I also encourage is to set up an ABN number, so an Australian business number. It takes no time to do online, but instead of having this sort of void on your LinkedIn profile, or this gap where you're not really doing anything, why not actually set your own business up so that you can start having all of that work, whether it be free work, whether it be very low paid work, you know, having that under your brand, and then all of a sudden you've got something to actually have as your LinkedIn profile that is, you know, a business, so to speak, and see that as a project in itself. You know, having your website, having your ABN number, and you go from being essentially unemployed to being a freelancer. Okay, and you've got that story to tell people. Okay, cool. So when I finished university, I did this to do this, or I've worked on these types of businesses. Okay, it sounds really weird, but it's just about creating that little bit of momentum at the start of your career. Like that experience of redesigning a menu can then, you know, put into your portfolio, and then you can then approach another business to do something like that, etc., etc. So you're just looking for tiny little bits of ripples to create a bigger impact. But it's that proactiveness that I think that is so, you know, valuable and desired. So if you can actually tell that story and bring that together, versus just waiting for that job to come in, you're going to put yourself in a better position. Yeah, cool. 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 So, 4 slides to go. So, what else can we start doing? So, networking events. Okay, there are loads all around. Okay, we're not locked down anymore. We are very much doing in-person events. So have a look online, see if there's any events that are there, right? I know people who have got jobs from being in an event and speaking to the right person at the right time. Okay, so get out there, attend events, and, you know, lean into that and really start honing in your interpersonal skills at those events. find a mentor. So Creative Natives, we run a mentoring program. We'll be doing it shortly, and that will be sent out to everyone on this course. But how that typically works is we pair you up with someone who we think is going to be relevant for you. So, you know, if you're a designer, you're looking to become a designer, we'll pair you up with a creative director. That typically is a first session, gets to know each other with a brief given to you, and then you then present that brief back to them. They're really, really valuable sessions. So get involved in a sort of mentoring program. I've talked about registering an ABN number. Getting any experience is better than none. We've also got an interview prep pack, which I can send you out as well, which is, again, just kind of giving you real clear tools and instructions of how to prepare for an interview. And yeah, like I said before, applying for internships and yeah, like putting yourself out there. Okay, like it is competitive, but I think if you have the right attitude and are consistent with your content and have conversations and engage with other people, your chances of landing something are far greater than just putting a press apply. So I've put down some people here to follow on LinkedIn. So and they're very, very different characters, so there's not really a common theme, but just people I think do a great job who have created a whole career through their content. So there's a guy called Justin Welch. He's American. He talks about being a solopreneur and how you go about it. Michael Saliba is a ex-graduate who we hired, and he did an internship with us. He's now working in a creative agency. And again, I think he's a really good example of someone who took initiative, reached out to me, came into the organization, was happy to do basic admin stuff. We then, you know, upskilled and was creating video footage for us, etc. And he now posts content. Rosie Chong on there, Joel Laggy, Sean Anderson, Mitch King. They're all people, and we can send you this to you. But kind of just follow them and you know, again, just get a feel for these people. Okay, they would have all started at some point having no real idea around what to post, and like anything, you kind of figure out as you go along what works, what doesn't, and I think all of them are having a great time doing it. So they're good people to follow.
Just a comment, Brenton met their mentor through us. He helped him get into award school and change the trajectory of his career.
There you go. There you go. So yeah, awesome. So some final thoughts that I would share. So experience comes in all different shapes and sizes, and I think there's certain experience that, you know, people do that they don't think is relevant, but call center experience and customer service, it's really, really valuable. And I would really encourage anyone, if they are at a bit of a crossroads and not sure what to do, is get a role where you're experiencing customer interactions and how people work all the time, because the whole sphere of marketing and advertising is understanding consumers and customers and how they behave. And I think there's no better place to get that experience than either through customer service or call centers. So please don't see that as as a step down. I worked in a call center, and I legitimately would say it's the one experience that changed my career and gave me skills that I didn't think were relevant, that I didn't think I was getting at the time, but in hindsight has been massive. Hospitality, working in a bar, restaurant, again, really useful skills. I think I did a post the other week about things to look for in juniors, and I listed things like working in McDonald's and traveling and doing all these things. Like they're really, really valuable skills that people don't see as being relevant, but I think they're more relevant than you think. Don't worry if you haven't figured it out. We are, we are often comparing ourselves to peers and to other professionals, and think that we don't have what it takes. Like when I first started doing these calls, I had no idea whether people would be interested, and still don't really know. And that's just the the imposter in us all. So I think just kind of getting out your comfort zone and leaning into things. There is so much opportunity these days that you just have to put a growth mindset on and see the opportunity, and not see the negative, right? If we focus too much on the negative, we probably wouldn't have a business. So try new experiences, and you know, and know that everyone to a certain degree is figuring it out as you go along. Everyone, you know, we think that someone, you know, has it all nailed and everything, but the chances are they're probably just as worried as the next person. So just focus on things you can control, positivity, mindset, and not worry too much about things you can't control. And I think lastly, I'm just going to finish on have fun. Okay, creative industry is about fun. It's about having you know, turning brands and making them more appealing to their consumers. So it's a great place to be, and you just need to get your foot in the door. And I think, you know, the fact you're on this call is a sign that you are curious about, you know, getting your career started. So you've taken the first step. Now it's just about being consistent, showing up, and not worrying about the final date of when you start. You just know that each week you're probably getting closer to that opportunity.
Any more questions? No, I think we're good.
Cool. I hope that in some way has helped. I will I'll share with you some resources, etc. If you know anyone who might benefit from this as well, please feel free. We'll be doing them on a monthly basis. I will update the content shortly as well. Follow Creative Natives on LinkedIn. Tag us in this if you want. You know, again, it's sort of creating that sort of ecosystem. And yeah, hopefully we'll meet in person soon. And good luck with everything. Okay, like the market is tough, it is competitive, but that's just slight bump in the road, that's all.
A lot of people seem like they're really excited to get working on LinkedIn, which is really good.
Do it, and please, if you post something, tag me in it. I'll engage, etc. It's yeah, like it's trust me, if you can stick with it, you will reap the rewards.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everyone. Yeah, we'll send out an email with the recording of this and all of the links. So keep an eye out in your inbox for that. Have a great day.
Thank you. Have a good
Thanks,
one.
everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.